So, thank you for that introduction. That was very well put. What I'm going to be talking about tonight is how this trajectory of exploring the relation between the human and more than human worlds and bodies has brought me to different landscapes of rock, but also to different ways of encountering rocks. So I'm just going to take you on a little sort of step-by-step journey into my thoughts, because maybe it seems weird. So anyways, and first maybe, I don't know if you all read this quote. This has been central to me in this ongoing research as a way to keep challenging my own perception of myself as a body and as a human being and as entangled and what those entanglements may or may not mean. So let's speed it out. Our bodies always extend and connect to other bodies, human and non-human, to practices, techniques, technologies, and objects which produce different kinds of bodies and different ways, arguably, of enacting what it means to be human. The idea of the body as simply something we both have and are is displaced in this perspective as the focus shifts to what bodies can do, what bodies could become, what practices enable and coordinate the doing of particular kinds of bodies, and what this makes possible in terms of our approach to questions about life, humanness, culture, power, technology, and subjectivity. These are some of the themes which radically refigure the idea of the body as substance or entity, and even as distinctly human. So coming from a background in highly participatory, immersive performance and choreography, at a certain point, I became exhausted with our human self-centeredness. And the first other bodies I sort of intuitively reached for were bodies of stone. Yes. So I started exploring what it means to meet the stone. Curious about the performative potentials of encounters of co-creations between humans. I was curious about what does that then mean if I try to transfer it onto an encounter and co-creation with the stone. How do I listen to the stone? What does it want? What does it do to me choreographically, emotionally, if the stone is an equal partner in creation? This led to a series of very slow performances where I tried to listen to the stones and take it at face value that they were the ones setting the pace and calling for what needed to happen. I also tried putting the stones on my body to see what that would do in terms of the impossibilities of moving as I would normally move as a dancer, but also to try and reverse the relationship between stone and human. Normally we walk, sit, move on the stones, but what does it mean if the stones then move onto my body? And in the process of doing these things, I realized some pretty wild things. Bonding with the stones or connecting with them, really spending time trying to listen in, opened a very different perspective on time, on embodiment, on presence, and for me, dislocated my human-centered approach to my own being in the world. So I started thinking I really wanted to try and share this with others, but how to do that, because it's kind of weird. So I started doing these rock bonding sessions in relation to different, both exhibitions, but also by invitation to different festivals. So I had people at Roskilde Festival, and I had people at Heartland Festival, and I had people at Museum and other places engage in these guided, intimate encounters with the rocks to try and share this undefinable shift in perception that provides. And also, parallel with this, I was working with larger geographical areas and landscapes as a way to try and engage with the word human and to put myself on equal terms with all the phenomena and bodies present there. And I gradually started moving, Denmark, we don't have a lot of rock. It's like a chalk foundation, so all the rocks in Denmark are either brought there by water or ice or human beings. So I was curious to go into landscapes of rock, but also curious to understand how these mutually shaping dynamics between human and stone form the landscapes of today through extractive processes at ever-increasing speeds, but also how they form our civilizations and our understandings of our cities and our phones and everything. So I started moving into places of extraction to understand what is at stake there, both working with my own body to feel into the place. I work both from a place of research, so reading into the geology and the history of the place, but also putting my own body there to see how this encounter resonates into my own flesh and what becomes apparent. And I took people with me into these different sites on sort of this very, like each place I will do research for an extensive period of time and then try to understand how to sort of choreograph or define a journey for other bodies to encounter this place. And this is another site of extraction. This is southern Norway, a project that I did including various sites of extraction and production around the city of Fredrikstad. And yeah, I think the image goes for itself. These landscapes are wild and they're like huge scars. And looking at them, it's both dystopic and extremely beautiful. But then when engaging with them, something else happens, because what I started to understand is that through engaging with the places that have been marked or wounded by our extractive ways is a way to insist on reparation, both in how the places have been marked, but also how these same extractive logics live in my body and in my mind and define how I operate and how I see others in the world as resources to be exhausted. Yeah. And I started thinking it's interesting to bring these landscapes back into the circulation of the city. So these are rocks from the quarry placed on the pedestrian street in the center of the city. And people have this guided session listening to the stones and thinking about the layers. So it's also granite that they're lying on, but the granite they're lying on is from China because it's too expensive to produce granite in Norway now. So these strange loops and links between material stories, human stories, and stories of the places themselves. And so, yeah, this is another project in a mountain with a melting glacier, which is another way to look at how our ways of being in the world and doing our business is shaping the landscapes through the melting of the glacier. And all these places made it clear to me that this is not a new phenomenon. We have been shaping and cutting and moving the rocks ever since we started building our civilizations. So from there, I started to think that it would be interesting to move into very ancient ways that these relations have shaped places and civilization and people. And so Athens is a really brilliant place to do that. And what I've always been fascinated with oracles, by this ability to become a channel for something. Not very clearly defined, it's not something I've researched majorly before. But when thinking about coming here, I thought this would be a good way to enter into an understanding of the place by looking at how these ancient sites, some kind of relation between the human being and the site has produced these altered states where it was possible to seek answers to questions. And for me, stones are like portals. When we engage with them, when we resonate with them, we gain access to something more than what our current state of affairs tells us. They're a portal into deep time, into other places and other worlds. And so I started my research here. And the first place I went was to, So of course I started by reading about Delphi. I have not been there yet. Things are conspiring against it. I will go there. But of course I started to read about that, and what became apparent was that even though when we read about, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Delphi and sort of history of it. So it's an Apollonian oracle, but the sort of the mediums for the oracle were female priestesses called Pythia. And the story says that Apollo had to kill this mean-ass, ugly, fat serpent that was guarding the oracle before. And so these two quotes kind of quite eloquently put where I quickly landed in my research. So Yulia Ustinova, in her Prophetic Mania, writes, the whole building seems to have been erected in order to enable access to a strip of prophetic ground. So thinking the ground itself is the place itself is what holds the oracular potential, and the buildings are structures to organize the ritual and the cult and the power of the oracle. And Euripides writes wonderfully about this story of Apollo slaying the monster. He writes, where a muddled purple-red serpent, dark-spotted along its back like shadows of laurel leaves, one of the great red beasts from the deep of earth once kept the vigil of a Mother Earth's oracle. In that time, Apollo, you struck down the mighty serpent and claimed the lofty oracle as your own. When he by force drove out Themis, Earth's own daughter, from the temple at Delphi, the sacred shrine of prophecy, the night-bearing Earth conceived new dreams, whose variegated visions revealed to many mortals what had been, what was unfolding now, and what would come to pass. If only they would go to the holy place and sleep there for a single night. And thus the earth stole back Apollo's honor as seer, angered for her daughter's sake. It doesn't end there, because Apollo will not have this when he goes to Zeus and says, Daddy, I want to be the oracle. And so that's how it ends for now. Sorry, I find it really, really funny to read all these old tales and also to sort of grasp at like coming to the different sites, coming to Acropolis and coming to Amphitryon. These are ancient structures, but once we start digging through the layers, it becomes apparent that before they were erected, there was something else, and before that there was something else, and before that there was something else, and it's like the layers of the myths and the matter still speak of this. When you start engaging with it, when you start sensing into it, it's still an unbroken line into really, really ancient history. So my practice here has been a combination of reading a lot and following strange leads from like, so who was this serpent that Apollo slew? And why was she there before Apollo came? And somehow all the leads that I follow lead back to these sort of female, chthonic, underground aspects that were there before the sort of civilizing layer of the temples and the gods that we normally read about, which are called the Olympian gods. They're like the last iteration, but before that there was something else. Before that there was something else. So I've been going mad reading about geology and how the whole basin around the Mediterranean was formed, how people have wandered from Africa up through the different parts of the European continent to come back, be forced back down by ice to come back up. And I've been speculating like mad to sort of grasp at these threads. And then at the same time, I've been taking trips to try and meet some of these places and engage with them in my own physical realm. And I've been writing a lot of diary entries. And normally I don't share my diary entries, and it's kind of intimate to me to do it, but I'm just going to share a few of them. And then after that, I'm going to invite you into a rock bonding session with stones that I have picked up during various visits of longer and shorter periods in these sites. Okay, so here we go. Acropolis. There is something about the stones, ancient fluid forms in ongoing, ceaseless movement and transformation. The marbles, fractured, rose-colored veins almost seem to flow or morph before my eyes, in a dialogue with the cloud formations and the grey blue sky above them. A heavy breath, an ancient pulse resonates in the stones. We move with the rest of the long snake of tourists, not touching, only looking, deeply captivated by the scattered architectural members stored as in archives on warehouse racks. I sneak a touch across a road. The contrast between the white, civilized, worked and processed marble and the native rocks, red, pink, grey and purple hues, worn smooth by millennia of feet. They invite contact. Why do we not live here? Let our bodies connect with the strata of the place. But mass tourism has created its own restricted choreographies for how to leave the place, and it's difficult to step out and improvise one's own dance. We walk around the slope. I become mesmerized by the caves, and the soft, seemingly porous red rock, places of beginnings, wombs of earth, mother deities, nymphs, and Pan, and rituals of death, transformation, and fertility. I look at how the mountain hardens as it rises upward, how the built monuments and its chalk gradually take over the material tables, hardening into built structures, into form, institution, civilization, and power. The caves still seem to breathe like gaping mouths, waiting for rights of relation and reciprocity to reinscribe and restore the paths between human and mountain. I find forgotten stones in some of the small caves on the slope and take them with me so they can tell their own stories of the place and its layers. And then the first part of the trip to Amphirlion, which is another oracular site. We decided to take a day trip to Amphirlion. I had read that the primary method for seeking answers there was through sleep and dreams. We've talked about dreams and decided to rest at the site to see what dreams and answers might come to us. We drive early through the morning rush hour traffic in Athens and out along the enormous access roads through the rain in a small rented Fiat 500. The morning has been marked by a difficult conversation and a long night full of very realistic dreams about preparing my son's birthday. The dream does not feel significant. We drive the last stretch down the mountains towards Amphirlion on a narrow, winding, rain-wet road. Coming towards us, suddenly, walking in the middle of the road is a grim-looking woman in a hoodie, accompanied by a large, white, loose-running dog. As we approach the dog, unexpectedly runs in front of the car, and we have to brake hard not to hit it. The woman looks at us indifferently and walks on. In my fright, I had accidentally pressed the screen on the open Google Maps, and when I look down, it now shows us a route to a nearby pet cemetery. Confused, I fumble my way back to the right destination, and we drive the last stretch there and park. Now I sit and search for mythological Greek women or goddesses accompanied by dogs. 3 appear: Hecate, primordial goddess of witchcraft and the underworld; Artemis, the eternally virginal goddess of the hunt; Lyssa, goddess of madness and rage. I think it was Hecate or Lyssa we met. Yesterday I fed all my notes and speculations and far-fetched theories from the past 2 weeks into ChatGPT, asking the new oracle to rewrite them into an alternate creation myth, focusing on stones, serpents, caves, mother goddesses, oracles, geology, and human evolution. 2 answers came back, echoes of our mineral entanglement and cosmic origins, delivered by high-tech Pythian snakes in the form of cables and light. I discussed this with a friend and his mother about whether ChatGPT can possess if ChatGPT is the oracle, then who is the god speaking through it? The algorithm, the human who feeds it, and wherein lies the mania, the receptive state, the absorbing intuition. I discussed this with a friend and his mother about whether ChatGPT can possess intuitive understanding. His mother, fond of speaking with ChatGPT, suggests that we ask it directly, and the snake bites its own tail again. ChatGPT responds, "It's a very fine and deep question, and the answer depends on what you mean by intuitive understanding. If you mean something along the lines of sense, bodily, immediate insight, then no, ChatGPT, that is I, do not have intuition in the human sense. I do not feel what is right, and I have no bodily experience, memory, or subconscious resonance. But if by intuitive understanding mean the ability to form patterns, see connections, and provide holistic responses without following an explicit logical chain, then yes, in a certain analogical sense. One could put it like this: I imitate the outward form of intuition, fast, pattern-based, holistic understanding, but I lack its inner substance, experience, feelings, tacit knowledge, body, life. If we compare it to geology, since you mentioned it previously, human intuitive understanding is like feeling the shape of a landscape under your hands, while my understanding is like seeing the map from above and recognizing patterns in the sediment layers. I can describe the layers precisely, but I have never stood in the gorge and touched the stone. And so, another trip that I had to take was the old sacred road from Athens to Eleusis. Is that how you say it in English? Eleusis? Eleusis. Which was once a year a procession went there to the temple of Persephone, oh my gosh, and the mother.
Demeter.
Yes, Demeter. Demeter. To go through cult rituals that were secret, but which was a great initiation, and which was also a celebration or a marking of the shifting of the season and of Persephone, the daughter, going back into the underworld to be with her husband, to be with her husband, Hades. And there's a lot of stuff around this. I wanted to walk there, which was quite frightening. But I found a companion, more than my fellow residents. And so I found the route, which is now a very busy highway. Yes. So this is, on the left, you can see part of the old sacred way, fenced in as an archeological site, and on the right you can see some of the new sacred way. It was a really wild experience, and I wrote a really long text about it, but I'm not going to share the full text. I'm just going to share a few excerpts. We set out early in the morning from the Acropolis to Pyramikos, then into the morning traffic along the main artery that the old sacred way has become. Set shops, cafes, empty buildings. At the corner of Orpheus and Prometheus stands an abandoned hotel. Its mattresses piled in a heap in the corner of the empty parking lot. The motorway roars alongside us, in contrast to the sacred way, the ritual, the magic of the original procession. I want to see if these layers are still accessible, still present here and now. So we lie down on a narrow strip of exhausted, dry, rocky earth between the motorway and the off-ramp. My body lets go as the trucks thunder past, vibrations traveling through both flesh and soil. Layers sink into and out of each other. The slow, plaintive tones that arise from the collision of road and tires become voices, seductive siren songs that tug at the heart, whispering of other parallel realities in this moment. The contact point is always here, always now. As I rise, I see a passing truck named Hermes. We are here, deep in the layers. Arbitrary offerings rest alongside the road, between small ramshackle roadside shrines. The air is thick with oil as we walk on a narrow path between motorway and sea. Oil infrastructure, pipes, refineries, tankers dominate here. Amber bee and strident force are the current mythological creatures, having taken over from the bee nymphs and Poseidon. Now at the edge of the Eleusinian Gulf, where mammoth tankers are abandoned, and abandoned cruise ships lie in clusters like enormous ghosts, haunting the sea, waiting for time and rust to pull them beneath the surface to their watery burial. Things come here to die. After a difficult night full of fever, mosquitoes, and dreams of helplessness, frustration, wrongness, and shame, I drag my tired body to the archeological remains of the temple of Demeter and Persephone, the stronghold of the mystery, already baking in the sun. Layer upon layer, marble upon local stone upon earth, Hades' cave, the gate to the underworld. I sit in the shadow of the cave's vault, letting it surround me like a room in stone. The site is crowded, with groups of tourists moving through in herds guided in Spanish and Portuguese. I sense the fertile underworld as necessity for new growth dwelling here. I want to connect with it, preferably by resting or sleeping somewhere private, but such spaces are hard to find among the tourist throngs. At lunch, the area empties, folding in on itself under the midday sun. I return to the cave, curling my body into a fetal position against the rock. The cold stone absorbs all my tense energy, which is received without judgment. My poison transformed into something else, replaced by a heavy calm that I drink in like cool, dark, soothing mother's milk. Something is released, returning to the depths. I let go and rest until the ticket lady shouts that one may not rest here. We walk down to the water, eat cream cake, and bathe with a view of the refineries and the dying ghost ships. Exhausted of function, drifting towards other forms, distant futures. Oil has moved in, displacing the old gods. The dark river Styx has surfaced, and Chiron demands his form. As we consume ancient death at ever-increasing rates, the lives of the present become the price we pay. The sacrificial pig, in the end, becomes ourselves and our kin, as the serpent coils through pipelines and highways. Nothing is ever free. If Persephone cannot descend to the underworld, and production does not pause, the underworld will take its due pay. But evolution is ongoing. In 1,000 years, there will be other gods and other bodies serving them. We rest in the sun by the waves, before finding a bus and riding the black atomic wave home to the present and the new world, past oil refineries and industry, backwards along the Vera Odos, home to the cave to digest fever and impressions. And now I would like to invite you to become bodies and to meet the bodies that are on here. You are more than I expected. I'm not sure there are enough stones. So if anybody wants to sit it out and merely be a spectator, it's okay. For once, normally I would never allow that. But I guess I will have to. But I would like you to find a stone that calls out to you. Now, how do we connect with the stone? How do we connect with something so other and existing on such radically different terms than us? We have to kind of fumble, we have to listen for tiny little signals, or maybe we just have to do it. Maybe we just have to get started, and it doesn't have to be all that special. But I would like to invite you to come up and find a stone that calls for your attention, that wants to meet you or that you would like to meet. Okay, so take your time, find a stone if you feel like you to. Yes, and once you found it, you can take it in your hands. And if you know which stone you want to meet, then And I can see that there are plenty of stones longing to meet someone. So if someone is holding back out of politeness, please do not feel obliged to do that. Great. And once you have found the stone that you would like to meet, please find a way to make yourself comfortable with your new companion. And you are very, very welcome to lie down on the floor. It was vacuumed and washed just before you came by myself, so it should be okay. Just more here, but and I can only encourage you to lie down because it's actually really And before closing your eyes, I would really like you to take a moment to really look at the stone you've chosen. To really notice all its details, its weight, shape, structure, colors. Maybe you can smell it, lick it. Maybe it makes you think of something. Are you ready? Place it close to your body, somewhere where it feels like it wants to go. If it's a large stone, you can put it on your breast or your stomach. If it's a small stone, you can put it on your forehead. And breathe. Let your weight become deep. Let the stone pull you down through layers of wooden flooring, of construction and building, of underground foundations. Think about this. This stone, this mineral body, has traveled through eons to meet you here, now. Is that not extraordinary? Perhaps you can touch the stone gently, stroke it, like you would stroke a small kitten. Perhaps a newborn baby resting in your body. Notice the weight of the rock on your body, the way gravity speaks through it. Where does it press? Where does it invite you to yield? What is hard and what is soft? Breathe. And let your breath adjust to the tempo of the stone. Slower, slower still. And listen, not only with your ears, with your palms, your skin, with your spine, with the softness of your inner organs. Listen for vibrations older than language, for silence, so vast it trembles. Feel your breath moving the mineral body. Feel your pulse through flesh, muscle, blood, skin. And feel how it reverberates into the stone. Perhaps you can feel an ancient, slow pulse reading you back across time, across place, across origin and transformation. Who is holding who? Listen with the stone into soil, into underground rivers, into ancient bedrock. Feel the vast mineral chorus you are part of. Perhaps you can join in this quiet with your own humming. Feel how your humming reverberates into the rock. Do it now. Feel how your voice oscillates with the inherent frequencies of mineral compositions, crystalline structures, and trajectories of time, space. Continue as long or as short as you want to, as loud or as soft as you want to. Keep the resonance of the hum and the reverberation into the stone as a frequency of encounter. And as you do this, I will share a small speculative genesis with you. Before all telling, before names and voice that could name, there was the gape, chaos, unformed, the pregnant void, unuttered potential. The abyss gaped, and within that opening the first vibration shivered, a pulse of breath, a proto-utterance from a trembling mouth, a yawn in the fabric of existence, forming nicks, black-robed and radiant in reverse, the dark matter from which everything else sprung. inhaling the abyss and exhaling shadow to bring forth Erebus, darkness folded within darkness, and thus forming the first rhythm. Darkness inhaled, light exhaled. The world began to breathe, and in this breath, Gaia uncoiled. Matter condensed in basalt, moss, the ooze of beginnings, as Gaia pressed herself into being. Uranus, the sky, came forth to arch above, drawn by the dream of her gravity. Their friction bore the Titans, time-bound and luminous, the grinding of tectonic will and cosmic vault, beings of elemental force, ancestors of both mountains and gods. Breathe. If you feel a need to shift your body, do it. Let the stone teach you how to rest. Rhea emerged, daughter of cloud and ground, the mother of gods. Rhea's womb was an archive, each birth a fragment of the future, a new iteration in the ongoing morphing dances of becoming. Before humans, the stones spoke. The mountains held within them the murmurs of chaos, and when the world cooled, they began to hum. Kibele, the mother mountain, flesh of Gaia, and memory of chaos, fertile rock, birthing the first spark of life itself. Actistis, male and female undivided, fierce and unafraid of godly will and power. Breathe. Stone became flesh, minerals and waters. In the heat of subterranean veins, bodies began to coalesce, creatures that listened more than they saw, spines curved like serpents, tongues forked to taste the air between earth and sky. Male and female, undivided and fierce, listening through stones to the unfolding of the world until words began to form from within. Thus, the first oracles were born, not voices speaking outward, but resonance heard inward. Neither male nor female, winding, whispering, ecstatic. In the heart of rock, the old vibrations nest, resonating in the womb tombs of caves, whispering to those who rest body to body with origin, listening not only to myths, but to memories. The residue of a world still dreaming itself into being. Breathe. Sense how bodies meet here. How the minerals of blood greet the minerals of stone. How they turn together in a dance without beginning and end. All bodies always already entangled. Relations woven of primordial care and violence, of hunger for survival and search for mystery. As you breathe and stay connected with the rock through pulse, breath, and wait. You can try to ask it questions and receive the answers in whatever form they may come. You can ask, who or what are you? And receive the answer, image, sensation, a word, color. You can ask, who or what am I to you? Perhaps you can ask, what may I do for you? And receive the answer as it comes. If you have other questions, you can ask them now. Every encounter leaves its trace. Every meeting shapes what follows. Let the exchanges, thoughts, questions, and answers of this encounter settle into the archive of your flesh, to travel on with you. Perhaps they settle into the body of rock as well, as traces it will carry long, long, long after you're gone. The flow of mineral is constant, stone and flesh in each other, human and mountain shaping and being shaped by one another. Life builds up only to sink to the bottom of itself, to rise again. Breathe. You're ready. Find a way to thank the rock for this encounter in any way that seems to convey your appreciation. Ready? You may slowly find your way back to this current moment and space. Come up to a sitting position, taking your time to transition. And when you're ready, you can place the rock where you feel it needs or wants to go. It does not have to be the same place you took it. It can be the same place where you took it. Be somewhere else.